That's it in a nutshell. That is the equity in the system. Now, it doesn't have any accountability for what your ability to pay is, but there is a presumption that, that your asset value is going up significantly as against anyone else's. And so if you are basically working out a tax system against property values, as distinct from your own income, that's how they approximate it. The more your property is worth, the more you'll pay. And you know, we're trying to construct all sorts of things to try and address the harder edge of that, but the short of it is going to be that we will not only have an extra 0.6 of an increase on the rates that we agreed yesterday, so how we do that I don't know, but we are also going to basically ensure that those who got less of increase and are on lower values are subsidising those who got a greater increase and have a higher asset value, and therefore a greater position of personal asset, wealth. Crikey. So, you know, I think that's it in a nutshell, and that was where we finished in the last debate. That's it, black and white, really. So, let's carry on the discussion. Now, the first person I've got is Councillor Penny H. And then I've got one or two hands around the place. And I've got a Councillor Wayne over there. That's good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I want to circle back to one of the discussions we had during the very long day yesterday, in which we talked about looking for opportunities and mechanisms to help people who are having problems paying their rates. That's where we need to focus. And I know Councillor Fletcher always talks about the people who will sell up and move out. That is the last thing we need, nor should it ever happen. It's not how this council will operate, and our Chief Executive, I'm sure, will speak at some stage about the mechanisms that are available to support anyone having trouble paying their rates. So that's our first responsibility, is to be a humane and sensible council. But I cannot, in all honesty, Mr Mayor, explain to someone why their property rates in their house worth $650,000 in one area are quite different from someone's rates in another area on a property worth $650,000. I'm sorry, that's just not fair. And at the moment, capital value is that the government decided that we will utilise capital value to set our rates, and capital value it is. We didn't have a choice about that, but at the moment, that's what we've got. And that, in its strange way, you know, we need to make it work. The reality is that if we try and put in a transition every time there's a valuation spike, a revaluation spike, we're going to end up in a complete shambles. And the double-edged sword of Auckland is people's valuations are going up by hundreds of dollars a week. Now, if you're the property owner, in a strange way, that's a good thing. Is it going to impact on your rates? To some extent, yes. But we also need to look at the fairness and equity across the region. And I go back to my point, how on earth do you explain to someone who's been waiting patiently for rates equalisation across the region that their rates are still higher than someone else's for exactly the same value property? There was an awful lot, for some of us who didn't speak a lot yesterday, there was an awful lot spoken around fairness and equity. A huge amount spoken around fairness and equity, and a lot of hot air burned talking about it. The rates transition is about fairness and equity, and Mr Mayor, for me, we have to actually give up that the pretence of fairness and equity via rates transition. A house of the same value in the region should pay the same rates. Our focus needs to be on how we support people having problems paying those rates, regardless of the value of their house, and I know that that's the work that we're doing.
So I want to just ask Steve to give us a little bit of a view around the issue of transition in a pragmatic sense. What can we do for those you know, who are struggling one way or another, no matter what our present rating status is? How can we help? Steve.
Thanks, Chair. So our planning at the customer service and operational level. So yes, you have debated some policy positions as part of the plan We were just working on the basis of the current view, which was that there would not be a transition. So we intend to operationally respond to any ratepayer with a good payment record, that we would not impose the penalty. It'll still be there as your policy position, but we would simply make arrangements with customers in an appropriate way with a good payment record, and we won't impose the penalty. Now, that doesn't require a really gnarly policy debate in the chamber. It is simply us acting in a customer-centric way for the ratepayers of Auckland that need some assistance. We have an enormously high proportion of ratepayers who have a good payment record. So those that might be in the situation that some councillors are alluding to, of feeling that they are in a position where they have no alternative, that's not the case. And we are going to do some serious work on your behalf on rates postponement, and that option is there for those that genuinely have no other choice. But we expect, I think if I'm right, there's about 70,000 properties sitting in the 10 to 20% category, and then it drops after that. But we are expecting call volumes of upwards of 100,000 people who might call our customer centre and say, what can I do about paying my rates? I can't pay them on time. If they've got a good payment record, we'll assist them. And we think that might be a really pragmatic way through the change, rather than having a divided chamber about whether there's a transition or not.
Okay, so that's also a pragmatic option. I'm going to say to you also a very similar response to the last debate. If this adds anything to rates, for me, that's it. There will be no more support coming out of the chair, and I will not be encouraging any support for anything else. You know, this was a fairly clear debate. It was a long debate, and not a lot heard back from the community through the consultation, because we agreed. And so to add 0.6 onto the rates to replace one inequity with another, I cannot support. Right. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Wayne.
Yeah, a couple of related questions. The first one just goes to the impact of this. If we accept that part of the reason that we've got these distortions across the region is because of capital value, and if we accept that increase in capital value is likely to increase under the properties that are already affected because of underlying reasons around supply and demand, what happens in 2015, 2016 when this comes off? Do we just move to a situation where, you know, the rates go up and they go up more than what they would for these affected properties?
So this would last for 1 year. So if your property's rates had to go up to $40,000, to be up by 40% rather, to match what I was paying for a similar value property, you go up 20% this year and the remainder in the following year.
And the other question I've got, which is a related question, if also we've got the situation where one of the drivers around the increase in capital value is overseas investment into the Auckland property market, because we don't have any capital value tax and it's very attractive, and that's going to get worse. Are we looking at other rating valuation methods other than capital value? Because my understanding is that the legislation enables us to do that.
So the council has 3 choices for rating valuation: land value, capital value and annual value. No matter how much the capital value of the city increases, how much we collect in rates is determined by your expenditure decisions. We only use the value to share the rates out. All of the valuation systems and the increase in value in Auckland and properties are driven by the underlying land value primarily. The buildings aren't the key thing that's changing. So they all, so land value, capital value and annual value would be affected similarly by the market for property in Auckland, so that they wouldn't change the factors that we're dealing with at the moment.
Annual value may be fairer though, may it not?
Annual rental value,
Because there's a distortion between
hang
rental
on,
value
hang on,
and capital
hang on.
value. This is
Councillor,
important.
Councillor Wayne, it is, but it's actually not going to change the discussion we have today.
I know, but at some point
And,
we have to
and
visit it.
Councillor Wayne, secondly, we had that and we made a decision around that. And there is a broader Local Government New Zealand discussion going on that we hope will give Local Government New Zealand a serious option. Quite frankly, the answer does not lie in property rates. It is not going to provide us with a fair answer. It's always going to be Mickey ducking around the edges. I've got Councillor Ross.
Well, another 0.6 on the rates for most people. That would be a headline, I would have thought, tomorrow. I would imagine what's going to happen also, we're going to have another amendment which will clip those that are getting decreases on too big a basis so that we can try and recover a bit of money. And I think Mr Cashmore and Mrs Webster will not be very happy because their valuations are going down, and they would not benefit as well from that as well. So I don't know, is there another amendment coming following this if this was to happen?
Oh, I'll second that one.
So that we could shock people again.
Okay. Any other comments, councillors? Councillor Cam.
Oh, I
Councillor
just
George.
want to say, Mr Mayor, you've said that the public haven't said much on this. Well, just on that claim, it was mentioned on page 13 that quote Auckland Council has proposed to have no further capping on rates increases or decreases, but the question was never posed. It was never part of our submission form, and so when you're proposing to do nothing, you can expect very low public feedback on your proposition to do nothing. And so to say that the public has been very quiet on this is simply because the public have not been asked the direct question as to would you be prepared to pay a little bit extra to help those that are the 40,000 homes, or approximately, that are paying a 20% more rates increase. Now that would have given us a fair idea as to the public mood, but to say that the public haven't said nothing is merely a reflection. The question was not posed, it was mentioned, and we went out and consulted on no transition, which is very hard to elicit any responses.
Right, I've got Councillor George.
Well, you know, it said, how do these people get rate increases or decreases? But I just, you know, and it's pretty simple that the valuations have gone up, and I know in the area where I live, they've gone up 55% on average. Now, that is a horrendous change in the value of, or the amount of rates that we're going to be extracting from these people. I mean, my neighbours, a young couple down and live near me, their rates have gone up 37%. And, you know, Councillor Close saying 0.6, 0.6% is horrendous. But, you know, there's 20,000 people, as I think as Mr. Which the officer said is the people impacted by these substantial rate increases. And, you know, the most simple way to sort this would have been to have the 900 UAGC. And I've actually gone through and looked at on the rates calculator, which is offline at the moment, and seen quite graphically that would have smoothed out and helped those people on with those huge increases in rates considerably. It's not the people with the high quantum of rates, it's the people, mid-range people right through our city, and especially in parts of Devonport, Takapuna, parts of Kaipatiki, they've been stung very big, and in Albany, where councillors Watson and Walker come from, their rates have gone up considerably in areas, and you know, we have, and I think as councillors, we have a duty to do something about this, try and make it more palatable and more fair. we've missed the bus in relation to the UAGC. So I'm going to support Councillor Crumb's view that we should do something to smooth it out, because previously we've done it. We've done it in the previous years. Now all of a sudden we're going cold turkey, and these people are expected to now really take a big hit in relation to what their increases are. Now, you know, Councillor Walker says it's migration and people coming in from overseas and buying properties.
Overseas investment.
We're told that that's not really has the impact.
Is that?
It's just changes in particular areas with this revaluation, I think. And so I'm going to support this, ask councillors to do so, because, you know, people are hurting out there, and those people in Middle Auckland, people who are going out working, 2 of them working to try and pay the mortgage, keep the pot boiling at home. It's not easy, and I think we should do something to try and help. Thank you.